No worries.
Okay. Now we're good.
We're good.
You guys should be able to be heard now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have anything to say about this, Mark?
Yeah, I'd like to make an addition on line item 709-500-980, which is the GIS mapping. We had that as 15,000 in the documents we provided you. We had changed that during department head meeting, and Jenny had reminded me today that went up, that we still had to pay the county. And so we took that back to 21,000. I've apologized to Jenny, that was our error. So we have bumped that back up to 21 on the screen, as you can see.
All right.
The other thing, again, I just throwing it out there. As I told you last week, I don't have a preference either way, but I was contacted the day after our work study that Rib Fest is coming back, or is coming to Danville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they notified me at the Rotary meeting that Thursday that they intended to have the event. I advised them that we had been discussing the host fund budget, and I'm not sure that there was still money available to them for fireworks, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring it to your attention.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Any other comments from anybody about the host fund?
Jenny, did you have anything you wanted to add to any of that?
I just wanted to tell everyone, you won't have to make a decision a week from tonight if you're not ready. We can wait till March the 3rd at the latest, but we'll have to make a decision March the 3rd council meeting. So I just wanted to let you guys know that if you're not ready next Wednesday, we can wait.
Okay. Jenny, is there any reason that why we can't put this budget in with the town budget and the line items that are related to each department head to be stuck in those departments to see exactly where we sit on their budgets?
We wouldn't be able to do that this year, but when we start budget prepping for next year, we can absolutely do that.
So my reasoning is to really see what the budget comes out like, and what I think it would make us feel is the different areas where we can draw revenue on to build up these budgets, and then we can make a plan on how to water down, or not water down, but start weaning off the host fund and try to make the town survive on its own income. I think that would be an easier way to look at it. I was really surprised that we spent that much money on the host fund. Anyways, if we can do that, I'd surely like to see that. Does anybody have a comment about that?
Are you talking about for 2022?
And
To start to do that?
you're referring to the budget process that starts in a few months, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we absolutely can do that.
Yeah, as soon as we can. I mean, this is already done.
Right.
We have to make a
right.
decision.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We would be too far gone this year to do anything. But yeah, I absolutely, when we start in May or June, whenever we start, yes, I can do similar reports to last year and add these items into each. You're speaking of the general fund?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think it would be easier.
If we had them budgeted for 2022, what the budget would look like. Ways, that's what you're saying, Tom?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. We absolutely do that.
Yes. I think it would be easier for us to digest what's going on. All right, well, thank you for that.
So we've looked at a couple of other items that are in this request form. We think we can help on a couple of them. And I'll just start with community cleanup, which is about 5 from the bottom of the top chart. I don't know if you can see it. It's 500, 960. We have earmarked $1,000 for community cleanup. And talking with wastewater superintendent Lofton, he believes that he can fund that because that is in the same areas that he works with as far as cleaning up the community and everything. So, Barry, did you want to add anything to that, or?
Yeah, just real quick, the IDM requires us to do outreach and public education, and part of that is a community cleanup. The utility bills, those flyers that go in there, I can use those as direct numbers to send to IDM, so it actually makes us comply with our Rule 13 requirements. And it's MCM 5 and 6, and those are ones that basically relate directly to those things. Is community cleanup, keeps the waterways clean, keeps trash out of the waterways. So that's a pretty easy thing to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
Jenny, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I'm so sorry. I cannot hear anything. I just hear a horrible squeaking now.
Yeah, it's unfortunately we don't know. It's coming off of Greg's phone. Greg, I don't know what you've got in the background, but it's really making a lot of noise.
Okay, stand by.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's all I can hear now. I was hearing perfectly, and then
Yeah,
Or
heard
hamster
with
on
that.
a wheel.
that's so much better. What we're
monkey.
proposing is to take the $1,000 from the community cleanup and remove it from the host fund. And Superintendent Lofton's advising that he can pay for those flyers that we
Yeah.
send out.
yes, I'm in 100% support of that. He talked to me about that.
Okay. The other thing that Superintendent Lofton has talked about, if you go down to the National Night Out, which I know Will has offered to work with the police department on that, but Superintendent Lofton, again, has indicated that he believes he can help with this as long as he can get a booth. He can use it as advertising, which again goes back to what he just first talked about the advertising, the education and everything. And it would be another $4,000 that we can take out of the post fund budget, if that's okay. Jenny, are you good with that?
Yes.
You guys have any questions on that?
Pardon the silly question, because it's probably obvious. Coming out of your budget, right?
Yes.
As opposed to the host fund. Okay.
He has, how do I say this? He has money in the bank.
Well, thank you, Barry, for stepping up on that.
Yeah, it actually directly relates, because when we had the vehicles on the square, in the early days of my time here, we used to take funnels and things like that, and they would say Henry County Partnership for Water Quality, basically how you get rid of oils. You know, it all ties into the clean water and keep on our
Sure.
is really what the stormwater management rule 13.
Okay.
I guess the next, I'm sorry, did you have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
The next issue, as I recall, Mr. Van Leer, you had raised questions, and we put this in yellow on professional services. You said you wanted to come back to it, and we unfortunately ran out of time and never got a chance to come back to it.
Yeah, actually, the reason to put that in yellow for me was, again, that to look and see if maybe there's just an alternative funding source for that instead of host. And that's all.
I guess that'd be a question for Jenny. Is there an alternative funding source for professional services?
Unfortunately, there's not at this time. For 2022, we do budget $60,000 out of the general fund for professional services, which we have all that earmarked for this year. But we could look at increasing that for 2022. And a lot of the things we have earmarked for this year are one-time things that we are paying for to have done this year. So it's definitely something that we can move over a portion of it for 2022.
Can you give us an example of those items that are earmarked already?
Mark, the what are you paying out of that? I just, the vendor's name just left me. It's for
I'm drawing a blank. I'm very sorry.
It
It was Baker Tilly.
a portion, yes, some of it is Baker Tilly, but that's not the big, the comprehensive plan.
Oh, HWC Engineering.
Thank you. Yes, I couldn't think of their names. I went blank for a minute, but the comprehensive plan. And Baker Tilly, we've used General and Edit for our consulting for annexation and fiscal plans that O.W. Crone and Baker Tilly are doing. So it's those two things
And
that we have for 2021.
And HWC was the big one, because that's like 65,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and we're paying a portion of that as well from Edit, and I think we earmarked 40,000 from General.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the other thing, if I'm not mistaken, Jenny, on professional services host, we pay our council that comes to the, our council meetings, and then is the police merits counselor come out of that as well?
Correct. And I mean, we say this every single year, and I realize we say this every single year, but we really hope for that to come down. As you guys are well aware, we've had a lot of issues the last couple of years where a lot of the consulting that we've done with TAF Law hasn't been part of the monthly fee. It's been outside that realm. So that's why you've seen those numbers so large the last couple of years, but hopefully this year. And so far in January, it's been more in line.
Jenny, would an example of that be in 2019 when we used them for the food and beverage tax?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think there was also some issues in 2019 with personnel, wasn't there?
Correct. And 18, yes.
Yeah.
And just different things that, arises, unfortunately.
Right. So is there any other discussion? Mr. President, I'm not trying to run your.
No, I'm just looking. I don't see anybody else raising their hand.
I do. I don't know if it was Jenny or one of you guys that said it. There are some one-time or infrequent items that are on this sheet of paper here. Were you able to summarize what those are? So if we didn't have them this year, where would that put us?
On the host fund, we're looking at the HWC, we're looking at all the TAFTA, we're looking at the attorney fees for the police department. And Jenny, if I understood you correctly, is once we get the comp plan paid for, we might be able to transfer some of the 75,000 to the general fund. Is that correct?
Yes, in 2022.
Okay,
The one-offs are kind of mixed in.
sure. So I guess where I'm going with that too,
That's just one time this year, correct?
What's that?
Is the comp plan just this year, the one time this year fees?
Yep, one payment.
Yeah, so, yes.
so I guess where I was going with that, two reasons is one, this looks bad, but it may not be as bad as it looks, at least not next year.
Right.
So as we have the discussion, I'm going to piggyback a little bit of what you said a minute ago, Tom, because I think where you're going with that, or at least here's my thought on it. We do need to do that to see what do we have to, where's our shortfall? If we were to budget everything through the departments and throw this out for this year just to see what it looked like, where would that put us? And then what I envision is kind of a slow drawback over the next couple of years, maybe 2 to 4 years, where we get to the point where we don't need that host fund. And what will be critical for that analysis in June or July, whenever we look at the budget, is how much of this is one-time or infrequent. Because some of these are going to come out. But I think the overall objective is to hopefully get to the point where we don't need it. And wouldn't it be nice if we go 2 or 3 years getting that $700,000 or $800,000 a year and not have to spend much of any of it? We could have a nice little nest egg there that will allow this to do what it's supposed to do, which is to help fund special projects and not be relied upon for annual expenditures.
Exactly. Any other comments about the host fund?
I'll
Okay.
just add too, I think we'll see we've had a lot the last couple of years of technology, upgrading and getting to where we need to be. And so I look for that to come down as well. Do you agree, Will?
Yeah, I don't think there's big time purchases on the horizon, but it's technology. It's
Right.
a scary area.
Which leads me to the next yellow area. Again, Mr. Van Leer, you had asked that we revisit it, was the technology and hardware and software, line item 450. We have $100,000 in the host fund for that line item.
And I wanted to circle back around to find out if there is another alternative funding source other than the host on that.
That'd be a Jenny question. I don't know of any, but I do know that we do, if I recall correctly, Jenny, we split that one choice bill. I mean, we pull from as many funds as we can. Is that still correct?
That is correct.
But I
That
don't,
is,
go ahead.
we pay for it from the general edit, and CC.
And then utilities help out as well, don't they?
Correct. They pay their portions of anything.
Greg, does that?
Yeah, I have nothing else on that then.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
And going down, we didn't find anything else that we saw, again, other than what you want to do with 950, which is the fireworks. Don't want to do anything, just tell me and I'll call him tomorrow and say, I'm sorry, but we're trying to trim the host fund and
So was the
What are they? Oh,
14,000 including Rib Fest?
No.
What, how much did we cut?
we cut $10,000. And we,
Would that be
Jenny-
considered a decision tonight?
well, no, we just need to know whether you want to add it in or not. The budget won't be approved until you decide to
Yeah.
approve the budget. We're just doing a worksheet. If you want to add it in, if you don't want to add it in, it's up to you. If you want to add it in, then vote on it and then say you don't want it in there. It's your call. If you want to think about it, your call. Jenny, you got anything to add on that?
No, I don't.
Okay. And Jenny, if I'm not mistaken, we flip-flopped that around, didn't we? I mean, we used to give the chamber 10 and then Ribfest came in and asked for 14. Is that right?
We used to give the chamber 10, and then last year we upped that to 14,000.
Okay.
Correct. And then, as I understand right now, we're at 14,000 to the chamber.
Yes, that's correct. And so Ribfest came in and asked for 10. I apologize.
I always felt those two fireworks 1 week apart was a bit much, considering that we have to try to look at things a little bit better.
What's the 10,000 do?
Who buys fireworks? They basically throw it in the air and set it on fire.
literally burning
Sorry,
money.
That's the fire chief in me talking.
Rib-
I'm so sorry.
Rib Fest just expects the town to,
They came in, no, they just asked.
they don't have any funding for fireworks?
I don't know. And Will will probably have a better idea because he's entrenched in the Avon atmosphere. But I believe that the town of Avon used to provide funding. The town of Avon chose not to fund them. And then there were some issues about location, so they chose to come to Danville.
Yeah, my sister actually, I think, sat on the board, so I had a little bit of inside scoop, and they asked us, said, find out what's going on. So
Well,
that's
it's her
what we
fault.
kind of heard, was the town had sponsored, helped them. When they took that away, they looked to move elsewhere. Because I believe Kingsway Christian Church was looking to merge or get bought out by a company. So they were looking at a new spot, and then that's how they ended up. And they asked us, since they were here, fine, and then talk to the chamber, try to get them to combine events, because then we'd have one fee and you get double
Well,
the.
Would the 4-H fairgrounds even want to have the fireworks out there?
Yeah.
They do? Okay.
It's a pretty big draw. They do
Is it?
balloons. They have all these like 20 hot air balloons and go up and do the blow and stuff too.
So,
Pretty cool.
so would Rib Fest go on without fireworks?
I don't think there's a question that they're gonna have it. Rob, you were at that meeting, I mean,
When is it?
July, the weekend before July 4th. So we have our, the chamber has their 4th of July on July 4th, and then this is the weekend prior to.
Can we do, offer some kind of a match up to, call it $10,000 or $5,000 and have them raise some money on their own?
You guys are the elected officials. We'll do whatever you want. I mean,
Will, do you have a connection with the Rib Fest? I mean, do you have a,
I think probably Kelly would be your best avenue because I think it's the chamber that runs that.
Okay.
the Avon Chamber.
Yeah.
I think that's a conversation that could be had. I
We can
mean,
have a little sidebar.
instead of us just paying the whole bill.
You can offer up like you did with Rotary, or what we did with Rotary and the baby box, if the fire department raised 5, Rotary matched 5. Whatever you guys think and what Jenny thinks we can afford. A vessel to write numbers.
We'll get creative to make most people happy.
Yeah. So,
I wouldn't mind seeing some kind of a match. I think if we offer 5,000 and they do, can raise 5,000, then we match their 5 and then they have 10 to work with and but if they can only raise 2, then we give 2 and there you go. I mean, it is what it is.
Jenny, any thoughts?
Just my humble opinion.
Jenny, do you have any thoughts on it?
I agree. I think that just because it's in Danville and the Avon Chamber's putting it on, I think that if they could raise some funds, that would be good.
We don't have an approval. Do I call them tomorrow and let them know the direction we're thinking and that
I think you
we can't
should.
make any guarantees?
With the caveat that it still needs to be voted on and all that, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Have Kelly do it.
And I would definitely, for the council to definitely next week or whenever we do the host budget, set a max, whether it be 2,000 or the 5,000.
19 then?
I'd say 19.
That will contribute.
Yeah, we're gonna set the dollar amount at 19,000. That'll cover the 14,000 for the chamber, chamber, and then 5,000 for, up to 5,000, I guess, for Rib Fest. Does that work for you guys?
Works for me.
The next one that's in white, or in, yellow, is the tower build. $149,999. And I think this was in yellow because I think Greg had questions about funding source. Is that right, Greg?
Yes, I did. And as I'm looking at that, I'm going to, I know that next to that it says rainy day or host.
Uh-huh.
I would be okay with this coming from the host because that monies can flow back in.
Right.
I would be a proponent of if we use the host money to assist the junior league football with this tower build, that and Will correct me here, but when they were paying some money back, was it going back into host or were we using it for some fields?
No, that was separate from the appraisal dollar. go right back into host. We could actually, with our software, we could bill them
Excellent.
for the 3 years.
Excellent. I would like to see that on this line item, I think we should use host. I think that's appropriate use of the host funds. I would earmark it that when this 150,000 comes back in, it goes directly into the future fund.
Jenny, I don't know how that works,
We can do that.
okay?
Yeah.
Can I divert off of this for just a minute? So, and Will put the presentation together for this. There was a item of 58,000, is that right? $58,000, that was an appraisal for the property that is being sold to the water department. And Will had requested to utilize that towards a $64,000 and change deficit for the Little League ball diamonds. We don't know that this can be done. I'll tell you up front, I know Jenny's got to check with the state, but again, Superintendent Lofton in his graciousness has asked to see if he can actually sponsor the 2 Little League ball diamonds in the name of wastewater, and it would be utilized for advertising, stormwater. I apologize, Jerry. Yeah.
Who's getting the bill?
The day the two of you don't make a mistake is the day you can chastise me, all right? So, but what Barry wants to do is sponsor these fields, put stormwater education on whether it be the fences, the clubhouse, the dugouts, whatever the case may be. And Barry is willing to come up with $64,000 so that $58,000 could be put back into the Little League football and help pay this off even quicker. But again, Jenny will have to, and I can't remember who you said, was it DLGF or State Board of Accounts, or can't remember who you said you were gonna have to check with.
Both. I'm in the process of speaking with them and doing research.
Okay. Yeah, we can't make any guarantees that this can occur, but if it can, I think Will be happy. Yes.
Smile.
And I think Barry's on to something. I know that he needs to spend money on education. I mean, you can only put so much money in the bank and not put it back out. So, I think it's a great gesture if we can get it done, and pretty happy about it. Your money.
So the reason that I do this is not just because I'm so giving. It's part of the requirements, again, for IDEM, and the biggest demographic that we need to hit is the young people on how we take care of our land, air quality, everything. And if we can hit youngsters at this age, it may stick with them when they're older, because most people we have found that when it goes down the drain, it's out of people's mind. So the more that we can put things on a wall and remind them, hey, don't throw your trash out in the street, don't dump in this is a big deal. So that's kind of why I want to try to hit this spot, is because it sticks with little kids. Once you get to high school, all you're worried about is going to college and having fun. The youngsters, it sticks to them. So I just wanted to say that.
They might grow up and take your job one day.
I hope so. At least they'll have some experience in it, right?
That's right.
Jenny, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Nope.
Okay. So again, we thought we would throw it out there so that you guys were aware of what we're looking
Thank you.
at. The next yellow area was the roof over Bostic Gym. And Greg, again, I don't know who brought, I honestly don't have my notes to show who had issues with that.
Well, it was something that I had brought up, and I think that the 2 items highlighted left in yellow, the Bostic Gym and the chiller, I firmly believe that those items should be paid for out of the rainy day fund.
Jenny, your thoughts?
Well, the rainy day fund is, of course, considered an emergency fund. If the council wants to go in that direction, what we'll have to do is do an additional appropriation, which to spend any money out of the rainy day fund, which will have to be approved by the state, of course, and advertised. We have to go through all the channels to spend from that fund. So if the council wants to go in that direction, there's just a process to expend any money from that fund.
Well, and I think that out of anything else that we would look at maybe using the rainy day fund for, you talk about for an emergency, a leaky roof, a chiller that doesn't work. I can't think of a better emergency item, for us to use that.
I guess I'm looking for consensus. I mean, Jenny, again, we're just scribes here. You guys make the decisions. So.
Jenny, are there any fees associated with transferring that to the rainy day fund, getting the state involved to get approval?
There's not any fees other than, of course, the advertising and the things that have to be done. We'd have to pay for the advertisement and those type of things. I mean, it's less than probably $400 to do those things.
Are any other disbursements going out of the rainy day fund right now?
No. We don't even budget that fund.
Okay. What's the
And can you give
balance
us
in
the
there?
current balance of that fund, please?
I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say it's like $764,000. I can email you guys in the morning the balance. It's around $700,000, $800,000. And if you guys would like me to, I can check with our financial advisor and see what they recommend. If they would recommend that we spend the rainy day fund, or if they would recommend that we spend money from the host fund, I'd be happy to check with them to see their recommendations.
Yeah, Jenny, please do that.
Yeah, that would be great. And my really dumb question, what funds the rainy day fund?
It is, hang on one second, let me pull my report up here. I just don't have the balance. Let me get back with you. You guys keep talking and I'll pull this up. And
I think the question he's got, Jenny, is where does the money that goes into the rainy day fund, where does that come from?
that's just money that's over the years has been transferred from the general fund per se, or any fund at the end of the year that we have excess, or the council perceives, or a financial advisor, or whoever recommends, it's transferred into the rainy day fund. But it's its own separate fund.
And is there a definition of what is a rainy day fund?
Operating for a certain amount of time. Is that right?
It's for emergency uses, isn't it, Jenny?
Yes.
And it's actually part of our bottom dollar that helps us keep our bond rating, right?
Correct. It's all part of what we consider, our corporate account.
Right.
And
So
I'm
having
working on
money-
pulling it up here. Sorry, my computer's moving slow.
With it helping with our bond rating, so it's good to have as much in there as possible then, right?
Helps us out in the long run. It's what we, as you guys know, when we prepare our budget, it's part of the cash reserves, right, Jenny?
Yes, for its own fund.
Right.
So the host fund is not part of our cash reserves? I mean, is it just expected to spend all the host fund every year?
I can tell you.
It's not expected. It's up to us on what we do with it, and we get to choose what to do with it. Maybe previous councils have set a precedent of spending it all, but we can direct the dollars in that account to where we want them.
That's correct. That's what I was going to say pretty much exactly.
Great minds think alike. Thank you, Jenny.
The host fund can be both a blessing and a curse at the same time. And the reason I say that is it's a blessing that we have this in our community and it allows us to operate the town. I can tell you there are times where I've seen it actually hurt us, and it's been primarily in grant request because we have to report all the money, and as soon as they see that host fund, we get turned down for grants almost regularly because of that. Even though, the only thing I can tell you is my personal experience, we'd been applying for a staffing grant for years, which host fund money can't be used for personnel matters. But every time the feds looked at that host fund, they denied our staffing grant almost instantly. I mean, we never made it second round. Because again, it appeared that we had all this money, but they didn't care about what our ordinance says, that it can only be used for this, this, and this. All they saw was, oh, look, they got this $1 million sitting there. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents in there.
And I mean, every year the council hasn't, approved all of it. And then there's been years that there has been. It's just, of course, based on the needs. And, we go through the process like we are tonight every year. And it's like exactly what Greg said. And I have the rainy day fund. It's Fund 510, Chris. And our balance is $878,993.69.
Thank you.
Pull it up.
And then, if I can ask a question of Barry, are these numbers concrete, or do you think you're going to come in lower?
I think we're spot on. These numbers are based off of estimates that I have. And there are a few contingencies with these where if during the replacement of that, they can break a valve or they have to replace glycol, which glycol is expensive, refrigerant's expensive. So they're built into these numbers. They're not bloated at all. And part of the thought process with these numbers was there's money in the budget now, so if we went over that number, it would come out of those budgeted items that we have right now. But I do want to say that we have a 5-year program, just like we did with that roof. In July, I will come to you guys with a number on the life expectancy of the roof on the police department, because that's another thing that helped you replace. The condition of the boilers. Those things there are your really big ticket items. And they may go bad every 20 years. So this isn't something that's going to occur frequent as long as they're maintained. And one of the reasons they weren't maintained very well in the past. And they are old. I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but when things start to go old, people start to maintain them like they should be because they expect to get them replaced. The other thing is we will benefit from efficiency. So we will see a direct return, but I don't want to sway anybody's opinion, but I talked to Mark till I'm blue in the face about trying to find a funding mechanism, and every time we think we have something, it gets shot down. So maybe in the future, if there's money left over in a budget, and this is a question I always ask Jenny, how do we encumber money from one year to the next if we don't know what's going to need to be replaced? That's the hardest thing that I've had to come up. We may have money left over, and then it just goes away, and then the next year we need to have something. We have to have an invoice, we have to have something, so just throwing that out there.
So,
Excuse me, Barry?
Barry,
Go ahead.
well, if I recall correctly, you told me that if we replace this chiller or do the remodel, that we'll get, did you say a $30,000 credit or a rebate?
The number that's shown. So what you see in the 205 is actually 3 projects. It's not just the chiller. So the chiller is one of those things. There's also a water heater, a water softener, and piping that has to be done in the boiler room with our domestic loop. And the reason I didn't, Mark knows I can go into way too much detail, but I'll try to stay short because, I'm a detailed person. But the building has really hard water. And every time a fixture fails, a lot of times it's because of that hard water. If we have a drip because of a leak, that's water that is going down the drain. That's a valuable resource that we don't want to dump just for Jerry to treat. So we're losing two ways. We're wasting water, and we're also treating it, clean water. So the reality is the more we can tighten the building up, and I can't give you exact numbers, but the reality is the guys that have done these estimates, we will see a return, and they guarantee, I don't know about guarantees, I shouldn't say that, but they are saying for sure they will see a 25% reduction in the electricity that's used on that chiller. It's a newer model, it's more efficient. So with that, I can go on and on, but those are the...
Don't leave, because I know Mr. Pato's got a question for you.
Did you get help yet?
Yes and no.
He's not talking about the doctor who went.
Oh, well, no. So, yeah, I met with Mark, and he pushed me in a while ago, and the job will be posted. I'm sending it out to the town internal first, and then it'll get posted on the website. It's just that's typical wherever I've been. That's what we've done. We always give the employees an opportunity first, but it will be posted and go through the employment process, the hiring process.
You just look like a guy that needs help.
Mr. Van Leer.
I don't know how to take that, Mr. Pato.
Mr. Van Leer has a question.
Okay.
Well, actually, it may be for Barry and Jenny. With looking at the three items, the roof, the chiller, and I'm even going to throw in Will's slide and replacement, stuff for the pool. Originally, I believe that pool was built with a bond. And when we're looking at three large items right here, and again, I believe that this should be a taxpayer-funded, these should be taxpayer-funded expenses and not host. Should we go out to bond on these and allow, for, some of the growth that's going to be happening, continue to pay for those over the next, say 10 years?
That would be a question for a financial advisor, which we absolutely can bring someone in. My initial, off the top of my head, concern would be we're already supplementing because of circuit breakers and tax levies. We're already supplementing our property tax revenue with the host fund. And I would be afraid that we would be having to do that even more if we would go out and bond again. We just bonded our, GO bond for the police vehicles. So I would be concerned because nothing's coming off and it would be an additional debt. Of course, it's going to hit circuit breakers. And I think we would just be, doing the same thing because it initially would have to come back to the host fund. Do you see what I'm saying? You know what I'm making sense?
Well, I mean, I see what you're saying, but I mean, I'm also thinking about, some of the, out here too, which would increase revenue.
I'm sorry, you cut out. I didn't hear what you said about. I heard the first part, but I didn't hear the end.
I said, under today's model with today's existing homes, I understand that we're hitting circuit breakers and things like that, but some of these other housing additions come online, and then where are we at?
Yeah, of course, we're always in the rears, by the time that property taxes are assessed and everything. But it's definitely something we could look at. I would bring in a financial advisor and go with their recommendations. But we can definitely look at that and see what's going to be the most benefit to the town.
Jenny, is it more detrimental to take on more debt or to use the emergency fund?
I don't know. I would have to, run the numbers and sit down with them to see. I don't know. I mean, I would, off the top of my head, of course, I would say spend the rainy day fund. It is making us interest. It's minimal interest, of course, compared. Rates are low right now, as we know when we just bonded on the GO bond. So I don't know, we'd have to run the numbers and look at an amortization schedule and see how it all comes out, depending on how many years we go, exactly what you referenced. We would just have to look at the outcome of both scenarios and see what would benefit us the most.
Well, I guess, and again, we just bonded for police officer cars, a chiller and a roof, are going to be very similar, type of, assets that, I see that as an option, viable option.
All right?
So I guess the question is, are we going to leave these in yellow until we figure out what we're going to do with them? Is that your consensus at this point?
I think, yes, it is.
Okay. Jenny, I think before we change any colors on that, I think they'll wait and hear back from you.
Yes, and I'll reach out to the financial advisor for sure. I'm not sure how long it'll take, them to get back with me, but I will absolutely reach out tomorrow and see what recommendations they have for us, and I can have them come before the council at the future meeting if you would like me to.
So the question I've got, are we adding the slide to it? Does Greg threw the slide in there as well, or are we just looking at the building renovations?
Well, I think that if we would be going through and incurring a cost for council and work on a bond, I say you throw the slide in the rehab of the pool in.
Another question is, and I know you guys have stated this before, I just can't remember, what's the life expectancy of these items? The slide, because that's something else to look at if we're talking about bonding. And the repairs, Barry, what's the life expectancy of all those things? Because that's also something to consider.
So on the roof is 20 years, on the chiller is 25 years.
Okay.
So the other thing I want to throw out here, because I want to make sure you guys have all the information you need to make a decision, is that chiller, we're 3 months out building one. And I'm just saying, if we let the chiller go, we may not have that. I don't know what kind of timeline it would take to do these things. And I'm not necessarily feeling giving, but there's also another option, and I know I've talked to Mark about this several times, and I know I've talked to Jenny about it too, but we haven't got any firm answers. When you talk about borrowing money and you have 3 healthy utilities, and I'm not speaking for Matt or Jerry or water or sewer, you can borrow from the utilities at 0% interest. I know this has happened elsewhere in the state, but you have to have a mechanism to pay it back. That's always the issue. And I don't know how that affects, your ratings or anything, but I'm throwing that out there because these are big ticket items, and I'm feeling a little bit of pressure because that chiller and the roof, it's got 52 holes in it. That's an emergency. The chiller we can probably plug along maybe, but we're going to lose money on it. So just giving you the information to make a good decision, that's all.
If we were to bond any of that, where does that money come from as we pay that back?
So that would be a separate bond fund, similar to what we have with the GO bonds and we have with the park bond and the communications bond. They're their own separate fund because then it becomes a property tax entity of itself.
Okay.
So Will still needs to answer the question on the life expectancy for the slide.
I'm thinking once the bond is retired for the park, it will probably be used to build or rehab the pool we have, because it probably won't last 5 to 10 years.
But how long will the slide last?
The slide will last 5 years, for sure.
And then one other question, if I may. Barry, on the chiller, you talked, I see it's got the HVAC in there. You talked about a hot water heater, but yet you have $20,000 in hot water issues. Are these separate issues? They are. Okay, thank you. Just wasn't sure.
Explain that.
We will in a minute.
Will?
I think we'll probably want to break those out too, because if it's over 150, he'll have to bond or bid. So you may want to break those out.
It's a lot clearer that we needed to remove one of them or the other.
So if I understand what we're going to do then, that 205, we're gonna separate it out, and Jenny's gonna check on whether it would be, more beneficial to bond, or to pay out a rainy day, or to leave it in host. Is that, do I understand what you all wanna do on that? Barry,
Yes.
you need to get those, that broke down. Do we wanna go ahead, I mean, if we're talking building stuff, do we wanna go ahead and add the 20 grand in there? Or is that gonna be a host fund issue?
Add the 20 grand.
Okay. Jenny, they'd like to add the 20,000 into that bond question, and the rainy day question, since it's a building issue.
Okay.
We are moving right along.
All right.
There's nothing else in yellow, on the rest of this. There is one line that was added that was, missed the last meeting, is we have one final payment for the Wi-Fi and the camera, installations for this building. It's $19,500.
All right.
I think Will's looking for, if you want to leave it in there. We owe the money. I don't know what else to tell you. We owe the money. It was from last year.
Leave it in there.
Okay, well, we'll add that in there. Jenny, are you clear on that?
Yes.
Okay. As near as I can tell, unless anyone has other questions, this concludes what we can discuss tonight. And I think we've made some great steps and great progress.
If I do have some things to add, if I can, please.
Absolutely.
Okay, something that I haven't brought up, but in running reports and doing research, we received, of course, the CARES grant fund reimbursement, which is the 150. I don't know if you guys have your cash reports in front of you, but it's our 150 fund, and this was, of course, for the virus, for COVID, the grants that we received back. We received a total of $321,907 in reimbursable monies from the CARES Act. I am working through exactly what that can be spent on, but when you look down at like the fire station and Chief Roberts' request and different things, from my understanding, and I'm still working through this, that $321,000 can be used for things like that. It could fill like our public safety request that we have. We would just, of course, have to do an additional appropriation and advertise and do all the requirements for an additional appropriation. But that's an avenue. We have that revenue as well that we can use.
All right.
And what we would do in that case, it was a separate fund that had to be set up for the CARES Act, and we would do an additional appropriation and transfer it into the general fund and expend it out of there. So that's another avenue that we have that we can look at.
Can that be used for personnel?
Yes.
So we can
Are you sure?
allocate $100,000 for and remove a police officer from edit?
Well, it's just a one-time thing. So I would not recommend doing that.
Okay, are you sure we can use it for personnel?
We were reimbursed $321,000.
Well, maybe we ought to check on that.
Thing that talked to Jenny about would be 85. Jacket, boy, help them.
All right.
Yes, I'm sorry, Greg. We cannot use that for personnel. I'm having a hard time here, and I'm sorry.
Okay, well, what about body armor for fire?
Yes, it's my understanding that it can be used for equipment.
Well, then I would think that we would take the 16,000 for the body armor out of post and use the CARES Act.
So I just looked something up here, and this is an article, so I need to check the source. But what can CARES Act funding from municipalities be spent on? The 5 major categories are public health emergency, so recovery planning, expenses associated with contract tracing, grants to prevent homelessness due to eviction or foreclosure, loans to businesses to cover COVID-19 response costs, and establishing a reserve of personnel protective equipment and increasing ICU capacity. Now, I don't know if there's more detail, but I didn't hear equipment in there for.
Which CARES Act?
This is for, and maybe I'm not looking at the right thing, but this is the amount, this was the money that was funded to the municipalities as part of the CARES Act, and is that what we're talking about?
Ours was, we got ours through a reimbursement.
Gotcha, okay.
And Jenny, if I'm wrong, I know you've seen the paperwork, but the money that we applied for was based on cost associated with staffing for COVID-19.
Correct. And any materials and supplies that we had to purchase, we were reimbursed. That specifically had to do with COVID.
Yeah, and I think, in fact, can't that money even help with some of our IT costs?
Yes.
So theoretically, you could probably pay for that camera and Wi-Fi.
Now, I would like to keep some of it in there because it's in our, it's in our overall corporate general cash. And anticipating that we're not going to be receiving the revenue for 2021, the COVID's going to go on as we've talked about, for probably 18 months, we're going to see the ramifications of it. So would recommend leaving some as well, right, to help offset, and initially that was our thoughts. We were going to leave it and see, where we were as far as cash balances, and as we were, because receive revenue for 2021. But I did want to put out there that we can look at that for some of these expenses.
I think we ought to be certain on what we can use that for, so I don't know if there's any official documentation. Because I just read something here.
David, and that's why I was hesitant to say anything, because I've been working with the Department of Local Government Finance and State Board of Accounts and our financial advisor, to make sure what it can be used for.
And are you?
Of getting all of that information. But if I knew, that you guys wanted to use it for a specific thing, I could take that question, and double check with DLGF and FBOA that we can use it for that.
Okay. And again, I'm going on the fly here. One of the things here, it says it can be used for things that were not accounted for in the budget most recently approved as of March 27th of 2020, which is the date of the CARES Act. So I just want to make sure that we have a good understanding, because we don't want to run afoul with the feds.
If I can, since we're going to be on this topic for just a second, I'd like to identify things that you believe that we should maybe look at if it turns out. Is there another color you can use?
I'll put something on.
Okay. But if I understand, we're looking at the body armor bundle for $16,000. Is that Is I understanding that correct, Jenny?
Yes.
Okay. And then the remodeling of the restrooms and the kitchens for $65,000. And then the PD vest, that's a reoccurring cost, so I'm not sure I would take that off because that's a grant match, isn't it, Jim? Okay. But maybe no, I would leave it where it is. I wouldn't put it next to it. But maybe the CVSA computer, would the voice stress analyst be a candidate for that money, Jenny?
I don't know that it would be,
Okay.
but I mean, again, I absolutely can check.
Yeah, because it's $6,000. I'm looking, and then again, if technology is an issue, we could do that 19.5 down at the bottom where the camera and the Wi-Fi is. Pay that out of there, out of the CARES.
I believe it's just for, I think it's just police and fire, first responders, and
Fire Chiefs Association.
But let's, again, I'm just throwing this out here if we're looking at numbers along here, is, go back down. If you did the camera and the Wi-Fi, and then Rob, you thought you'd be about 83,000 for the EMS gear? You're looking at, I mean, literally on the money, $200,000. So I don't know what that would leave for, how much did you say you got, Jenny, or?
$321,907.
So that'd leave 121 in the general. I'm not advocating that. I just want you to know what the numbers are.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else on the fund?
Anybody else have anything on the host fund?
If not, we'll go to B.
Would you guys want to, hopefully by a week from today, I can get closer to having some answers. I don't know that I'll have all of them. Would you guys want to do another work study before the next council meeting a week from tonight so that I can clarify these answers, or how do you guys want to handle that?
I would prefer that.
I can be at a work study.
How much time are you proposing?
I think, if we met at 6, that, since I'm just answering questions, I would feel like that would be a sufficient.
How about next week?
yeah.
All right, 6 o'clock before the next meeting. Work study.
I would like to kick the approval of this host budget to the March meeting when I can return.
Okay, yeah, as long as we get approved March 3rd, I will be okay as far as our deadlines and accounting software.
All right.
I do need to know that tonight because I do have it on the 17th. So are you approved?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, I was going to say you approve the agenda, so.
Yes, it's okay.
I'll strike it from the 17th. Add to 3-3.
All right, if that's it, on to B. Clerk Treasurer will present a request for the town to implement its own COVID-19 benefits package.
So our COVID benefit package, you guys will remember that you passed it, I think last fall, Mark, last summer, I can't remember now. But it allowed for I'm sorry?
Yes, somewhere in that area.
Okay. It allowed for COVID benefits for our employees that if they were diagnosed with COVID or had a family member or had to be quarantined, met the criteria, they would not have to use their own personal time, such as sick time, vacation, or to take off. And that expired December 31st. Since January 1st, we have had 4 employees that have been four at least off the top of my head that have been affected by COVID. I didn't know if you guys wanted to keep that in place, that it expired December 31st, or if you would like me to present at the March 3rd meeting to extend that to March 31st so that those four employees didn't have to use their own time. I've seen towns and cities do both. Some haven't. They've had the employees use their own, and some have. There was a question on the listserv, and it seems to be about 50-50 who's extended it and who has not. But I wanted to present it to the council before to see if you guys wanted me to amend that to bring it forth to expire March 31st, or if we should keep it as is. The town is very gracious with the amount of sick time, vacation, and personal time that we do give, but you know, when you're talking 10 days that employees have to be out, 14 days for COVID, that can really chip away at it. So.
You guys got any thoughts? I think it sounds good.
Okay.
So on March the 3rd, we'll have what are you going to do, like an amendment to the salary ordinance, or?
No, it would be an amendment to the COVID. That I would amend that where it showed that it expired December 31st. I'll work with TAF Law to get the exact wording that needs to be done, and I can bring it forth for a vote then.
Okay, thank you.
Is Jewel there tonight?
He is not.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything more on that one? C, town manager would like to explore the council's feelings, holding a competition to design a new flag.
So, I had thought there was some interest in designing a new flag. I have since been notified that that's not even remotely possible. Not possible, I'm saying. We've received a great deal of phone calls supporting our current town flag and keeping it, maintaining it the way it is. If it's all right with the council, I'd just soon withdraw my proposal and stay with the current flag, and I'll order some new ones.
Well, I remember last time we went through it, we just got a couple, and I think you're right. I go along. I don't think we need to address that right now, but there are other people here. Anybody's feel? So yeah, I don't think we need to address that right now.
I don't think we would do anything until after we finish the comp plan.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, well, we will go ahead and get some more flags ordered because we are running low.
That's good.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. D, wastewater superintendent.
Giving stuff
Barry
away, I
gets to sit
wasn't going
down.
to correct him, so,
But you're just giving your stuff away, I think.
right, that'd be different.
How much are we getting from you?
We would like to do a booth at the night out, if possible. But I hadn't had a chance to talk. So, the priority projects were identified last year, funded at the end of the year, and I knew that easements were going to be a big deal. So we wanted to take a chance to update you and bring you into that loop so that you understand why it's taking so long, because it could be a year or two from now that we're still talking about the easements. So I've got Kent here to pass out some maps and kind of help understand. The north one's the hardest one. It crosses 25, 26 properties, crosses the creek 12 times. And when we build this sewer, we're not removing an old sewer and putting in a new one. We're building a new one alongside the old one. There might be some places that we take out, some places that we abandon. And that easement was probably established 100 years ago. So they were looking at oak trees, fence posts. None of that's there now. So what we've done so far is look at the properties that we're going to be on.
Same? Same.
So we've identified the properties. We hired the abstract title to investigate for existing easements, which is done. And we've aligned the new sewer. So we've identified that now we need wider easements, and we need to clarify where the easement actually is versus where it says it is on people's properties. So some folks are going to be surprised. Some folks will be very cooperative. I've already spoken to Jerry Vornholt. He's one of the larger property owners, and he understands. But it does take time. And I didn't want that time to become a big question. Why is this taking so long? Why aren't we building? Where are we at? So we wanted to keep you updated as we go along. And since we've made several steps, we wanted to let you know where we are and why it's such a big deal. And it also costs a lot of money. So,
Thank you. So how many times do we cross the ravine?
12 times on the north
Now, do we
side.
go over it or under it?
There's some places
we
that
do
has
both?
what's called a invert structures where it siphons underneath, and some places it's just barely underneath. So we're trying to, with our new alignment, stay further away from the creek so that we don't have to fix it once we're done. But another huge cost is bypass pumping. So we don't really want to cross our old line as well. But there will be some places where we have to cross the creek, some places where we have to cross the old line. Some of the old line will get abandoned. We'd like to abandon it in place, which is what they've done in the past in the park and south of the park, where we cut the structures off below grade, fill them full of sand and cement, maybe grout. But they would still be there as a part of our easement, not used, and then some of them will actually keep in use, just to try and keep the bypass pumping cost at a minimal. So the easements are going to be a big deal. Like I said, you'll end up getting involved with it, and just wanted to bring you up to speed on where we are.
Well, I'm always impressed with your work and Fanning's work.
It takes
You've got a big
time.
job here.
Yes. Working for a utility, I understand what you're going through.
Sure.
And I was just wondering on this one, why can't we put it through Nielsen's yard instead of his neighbor's yard?
Well, Dwayne Lane wants me to go into Judge Bowles' yard, so I've got that battle going right now.
Do you mind a question from, obviously, the dumb one up here? What the green is, can you explain the green and the red here?
I'll let Ken speak.
So the green lines are our existing
what I
gravity
thought.
sanitary
Okay.
sewers, and the green circles are our existing manholes.
Gotcha.
We don't have
Okay.
our proposed new ones on that alignment. This was given to abstract title to show them what parcels that we needed to do title researches on to see if
Okay.
we had any easements. So in red, the red boxes are, the property parcels that were in question.
Okay.
We went back 100 years, a 100-year search. Most of them didn't have much easement. If they did, it wasn't aligned with where we actually surveyed our existing lines, so it's not even where our lines are. And then some of them, they've referenced a property corner that it doesn't even give us good records where that property corner is, so it's basically worthless at that point. But long story short, we're going to be putting a new line in, so we're going to be, if we had an easement, we're probably going to be out of it anyway. The question for our legal counsel is, what do we do with our abandoned old main? Or do we have to incorporate that into that easement, or how do we address it? And I'm hoping we could just go 1 foot over so basically we're just on one side of that main that we'll never touch, but at least we're showing that we do have an easement for that line, because technically it's still ours, but that's a question for him. Another question is, how do we go about getting those easements? Do we have someone go out and obtain those? Some people aren't going to want to give the easements, so how do you address that? And legal counsel will probably talk to you about eminent domain and what that is, what that process involves. We'll have to get appraisals and, pay the fees for appraisals as well. So we're trying to get out ahead of the game. The engineering design part, we can figure that out, but, the unknowns is dealing with the property owners, make sure we do everything properly and get the right easements. So when we can talk to the council, legal counsel, hopefully he can kind of give us some guidance on that.
Thank you.
Good work.
What's that?
Good work.
Oh, thank you.
I see this map and I know what this entails. I mean, that's 20-some conversations with 20-some different families, with 20-some different views.
Yes.
I understand what you're going.
Yeah. And, who is that person that's going to have those conversations?
Right.
Is that going to be someone of the
Are you
town, or are
volunteering?
we hiring that out with someone?
Barry's getting helper.
That's what I was thinking. Barry. Need to get on the horn and talk to those people.
You already are.
You're related to most of those people anyways.
Decision today, but
We
I'm
can't.
recommending to my consultants that we hire it out, that everything's delivered properly, received back properly, and handled by people that do this type of work.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
I've been involved in both fashions, and that's the better way to go.
You don't want to go around and talk to everyone?
When there's not a plan in place, that's when it's just, it's bad. It just takes forever to
Yeah.
deal with it, and nobody gets the right, proper answers on things. Like, for instance, Indian American, they hire all theirs out when the communities that they are in.
Okay. Thank you.
Add that I will agree 100% with Jerry and Kent. I've seen it as a clerk treasurer done both ways, and it goes much, much better the way that Jerry's recommending.
Hey, someone to be the bad guy.
Basically, that's exactly what you're doing.
Any other questions at this
Thanks,
point?
No, you're,
Do you want this back?
no.
Happy to take it back, or if you guys want to keep it and
In
look
your
at it.
garage.
I got a spot
If you want
for
to
it at home.
take it when you walk around to the property owners to sign the easements,
Yeah,
you
get
can take it with
autographs.
you.
Have them initial their lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for the evening, unless, Mark?
Yes, sir. I do have one other issue. Mr. Winters and I have had a discussion about this. I meant to bring it up at the last work study, and I apologize, we ran out of time. You'd asked me about doing a proclamation honoring the Danville football team. If it's okay with you, I'd like to push that off to March instead of trying to make that happen next week. Crunch. And I think at that point, quite honestly, if I see the trends the way they are, I think it's possible we could go to yellow for a county, and then I think we could get the football team.
I think we went to yellow today, but I know we have to be there, a couple weeks? You want to look for March 17th then?
I can
Is that
shoot for whatever.
far enough out?
I got March 17th would be fantastic.
I got to check the basketball tournament schedule too, because 5 or 6 of our players are football players also. So,
Is that something we could consider having in the gym?
The problem with the gym is half the gym is rented out on Wednesday nights
yeah.
to Little League basketball, because that was the first thing I looked
Okay,
into.
okay.
And the only other option, what time do they start again?
You did Tuesday.
Yeah, if we did a Tuesday special session, or when do they start on Wednesdays? I can't remember what you told me.
Start at
6:30?
6.
6, okay. So we'd have to have an early, like work study
That's
thing,
fine.
and I don't think anybody wants to come in at 5:30 for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll look at, as far as I'm concerned, I'll wait to hear from you, but I will pencil it in for March 7th.
I have a feeling that's either going to be regional or semi-state week. So, but I'll find out, and then I'll reach out to the coach.
All right.
Thank you.
If we don't have anything else, motion to close.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
the meeting is
Aye.
Aye. All in favor, aye.
Thank you for coming.